Yes, fearful avoidants absolutely can and do discard partners. It's a very painful experience. No, they don't discard for the same reason that a narcissist does, but they still discard all the same. A discard does not imply intent. A discard is when a partner is dropped abruptly without any explanation. It is unilateral. It is blindsiding. The person that is discarded feels like they're being thrown in the trash, like they never even mattered. They're given little to no explanation as to why the relationship is ending, and they're not given much in the way of empathy. Typically, the reason that a fearful avoidant will discard a partner is because their avoidant side has been activated. One of their avoidant fears has been triggered. Fearful avoidants, they have an anxious attachment as well as a dismissive avoidant attachment. It's a disorganized attachment style. They have both sides. And some fearful avoidants are heavier on the anxious side, and some of them are much heavier on the avoidant side. Typically, a fearful avoidant discard will happen further into a relationship, and most of the time, it's because the avoidant resents you. Their emotional needs and wants have not been met in the relationship, but they never told you. That's because they fear communication. They learn from childhood that if they communicate their wants and needs and feelings, they get rejected, they get abandoned. So they've learned to associate communication about their wants, feelings, and needs with abandonment and rejection. So they don't communicate to their partners. If you're doing something that they don't like, or if there's a need of theirs that's not being met, they're not going to tell you. They're going to expect you to read their mind and to just know. They'll even tell themselves stuff like, well, if this person really loves me, they'll know what I want. They'll know how I feel. And they bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up. And then it leads to resentment. And that resentment builds to the point where they can't take it anymore and they abruptly discard the partner. They deactivate just like a dismissive avoidant would. They take their feelings, they take their emotions, they suppress them, they bury them. They don't allow themselves to access their own feelings while they're deactivated. Meaning, this person is going to be stone cold and lack empathy. Now, sometimes they can be struggling with emotions and actually be crying while they're discarding you and giving you no closure. But it's a discard all the same, and it is absolutely painful. In the avoidance mind, you should have known. You should have known what they wanted and needed. Or maybe they can actually convince themselves that they communicated this to you. Maybe in the past, in a very roundabout way, they told you something that they like or don't like, but they said it in such a casual, nonchalant way that it never registered with you because they really didn't directly communicate with you. But by the time they get to the point of the discard, they're in full resentment of you. And resentment is the death blow to a relationship. Now, fearful avoidants that are much heavier on the avoidant side can discard for the same reason that a dismissive avoidant can. They still can fear emotional intimacy because they associate that with abandonment. They can feel overwhelmed when a relationship is getting too close. They fear rejection, they fear engulfment, which is losing themselves in a relationship to somebody who's ultimately going to abandon and reject them. So they can actually do it for the same reason that a dismissive avoidant does. But it is much more common to be longer into the relationship and for resentment reasons. That's the most common thing with a fearful avoidant. Either way, regardless of the reason, regardless of which fear of theirs has been triggered, it is still a traumatic experience, it is still blindsiding, and it all comes down to a lack of communication. This person didn't communicate their wants, they didn't communicate their needs, they didn't communicate their feelings to you. You never knew. You are expected to be a mind reader. And unfortunately, you're not a mind reader. They set the relationship up for failure. But just like dismissive avoidance, they don't self-reflect. Self-reflection is the polar opposite of avoiding. When you self-reflect, you have to process emotions, not suppress them. You have to take accountability, see where you've gone right, where you've gone wrong. Reflect on how your behavior impacts others. That's painful stuff. And just like dismissive avoidance, fearful avoidants do not like to self-reflect when they are deactivated, when their avoidant fears have been triggered. So this is a person that will struggle to empathize and take accountability because they're not looking within themselves to see what their role is in the breakup and what their role is in failed relationships. It is painful, it is blindsiding, and it is definitely traumatic. And if you have been discarded by a fearful avoidant, practice some self-compassion. You didn't know what you didn't know. Look back and reflect on opportunities that maybe you could have held boundaries. Maybe you could have held boundaries in a healthy way that would have either saved the relationship or would have shortened its duration. But don't beat yourself up. It's a very painful learning experience. It's a very, very painful one that you didn't deserve, but it did happen. And be patient with yourself and work towards understanding and work towards healing.